All right, so the wrap up. This season of the Newsroom began with a deposition in a lawsuit that threatened everything for our heroes, Bob, everything.
Everything.
We gradually came to realize they made a huge mistake as a news team by falsely reporting that the U.S. had used sarin gas in Afghanistan. Now that we've seen the whole season, what did you think overall? Do you have, say, a final grade or a star rating or anything?
Oh, I do. Not only do I have a star rating, but I have a mini review.
Love it.
Okay. The Newsroom Season 2. Dun, 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 dun. 3 out of 5.
Ooh.
A big notch below Season 1 with too much relationship drama, less appealing character development, and weaker plot points. Dot, dot, dot. But I'm a sucker for what it's trying to accomplish and really did enjoy many parts, including even some of the cheeseball ending.
All right. Um, uh, I'm actually going to go with 3 stars too, but that's because I'm a little bit of a masochist. Honestly, that includes bonus points for having the ability to piss me off. I have respect for any show that can get a reaction out of me, but most of my reactions were negative, to be quite honest.
Sure.
Aaron Sorkin's work is heavily stylized, it's idealistic, and the dialogue is snappy, sometimes too snappy. But if that were the biggest criticism, we'd have a pretty good show. My problems with the first season were the hindsight is 2020 issue, the latent sexism, and the oozing, dripping sanctimony. And honestly, all those things were a little better this season than last. Um, but well, looking at my notes here, and I can't read what I wrote. Anyway, but so was the good stuff was a little bit less too. So it's like Aaron
Yeah.
Sorkin light for both good or bad. Um, what did you think about the Genoa storyline that drove the action now that we've seen it play out completely?
I thought it was trying too hard to be a bigger deal than it needed to be. Like they're a newsroom, and they're stuck in this, and this happened with the Petraeus story in the finale. They're stuck in this world where everything's already predetermined because you're never concerned with how they're going to impact history because they can't, because history's already written and the show is based on that history happening how it happened. So like them breaking the Petraeus story on election night, that would be rewriting history. So unless Sorkin wants to do that, a lot of these things felt like insignificant because you can't have it both ways. You can't have this be commentary on what's already happened, that's the most important thing, and then a brand new story about something that never happened. It just really wigged me out a little bit. And the sarin gas is the best example of that because that would have been a huge story that we would have all known about if this was a real network. So I felt like he fell victim to his own formula. Does that make sense?
Mm, sure, sure. I mean, he's trying something new with Genoa that wasn't really historical, slightly alternate universe, but yeah, they had that same issue that you're talking about, where it's hard to know how to respond to that since so much of it is in our same universe. But I'm actually going to go even further and say, I think I said this during our recap at the time, but I didn't like it at all. It was a squandered opportunity to make our heroes have to face something real, but they got that get out of jail free card when we learned that everything could be pinned on one person who wasn't even a real member of the team because he doctored the video, and no one else really did much that was wrong, so no one else has to do any soul searching. No one has to say, oh man, my friend really messed up here. None of that had to be dealt with.
Yeah, I agree. That's true. It did kind of put a magnifying glass on the fact that everyone here has the utmost integrity ever.
Yeah, it sort of reminds me of Entourage, the way everything always works out in the end. It's like, oh great, how are we going to get to Italy? Oh, our friend's going to roll up with a private plane randomly, and now we're all going to get there even better than before.
Yep, that's about how it feels like.
So, and no one had their integrity questioned, and we're left with the best news team in the world because, unlike everyone else in the news business, these guys stick to their principles. No other journalist does that, of course. Only
No.
HCN's newsroom.
And they're nuanced characters, Logan, because if you saw, I mean, Don did flinch before deciding with everyone else the right thing to do.
That's right.
So, you know.
For like 5 seconds. Okay, well, let's get to our own special way of reviewing a TV season, and that's with our season end awards. Who did you think was the most valuable character of the season, Bob?
Most valuable character. I am going to go with Don. Which is a weird pick, I realize, but I feel like I don't have to do the show any favors. I liked Don as a character. notwithstanding the fact that we just were sort of making fun of the way he was written as being the guy who questioned something for 5 seconds. Um, but he was much more believable as a producer than Jim. I actually couldn't stand Jim this season at all. I guess that's showing my hand a little bit for some of the next awards,
Well,
but
I mean, not to nitpick, but nitpicking. Don Don has Mackenzie's job, right? Don and Mackenzie are equivalents.
yeah,
Jim is like Mackenzie's assistant.
right, but I feel like that's not an excuse to make Jim seem like a toddler compared to an adult. That's so I
Okay,
still feel
fair
like
enough.
still feel like Don's the adult and Jim is like he has fucking senior producer in his title. I feel like in the real world that bodes well and
Yeah, well,
does
he's second in command on the production of Will's show. That's true.
right. And if you remember in the last episode, I thought it was funny. It was like, let's get the senior staff in here to talk about things, and I was like, oh, who's the senior staff? And then it's like, oh,
Maggie?
Dev Patel's character, the web guy. He's senior staff. Okay.
Yeah, it's all the heroes. That's what he meant to say.
But
Okay.
anyway, I liked Don. I thought he had the right balance of wit and screen time, which wasn't too much and wasn't the most wonderful man in the world. I give him MVP. What about you?
Well, to sort of zig a little bit here, I'm gonna skip a little bit because, and this may not work so well now that you gave him MVP, but I called Don the most underrated character. It took me a
Oh.
while to come around on Don, but I think he actually annoys me one of the least out of anybody because
Hmm.
he's reluctant to get in other people's business. He likes musicals apparently. He stands up to Will. I think he's good. I think he's good. So I had him most underrated, but apparently not
Well,
underrated to you.
that's probably a more accurate portrayal. I could have used a little more Don, but I think compared to how everyone else sort of annoyed me at a certain level, the fact that I wanted slightly more Don made it like the MVP.
So for my MVP, I'm going to go with Will. It might be obvious, but the newsroom rises and falls with Will, played
Hmm.
by Emmy winner Jeff Daniels. Any single soapbox or speech of Will's is stirring, and if Jeff Daniels were any less convincing, the whole thing would fall apart. But that brings us to the problem with the newsroom, and so I'm going to skip to the worst character of the season, who is Will. And the most wonderful man in the world routine gets tiresome. Will's loyalty and principle and the capital G goodness. It gets so overbearing it really drags down the show. So it rises and falls with Will. A generous 3 stars for me. I think he's both the best and the worst character.
I see. I see.
Do you have someone for worst character?
Yeah, Mackenzie. And it's not her fault as a human being to, like it's just the way she's written is so
Yeah.
whiny and jumping up and down and tantrum this and like
It's
if she's
so
the equivalent of
frivolous.
yeah,
Even
like,
this last one we got. Sorry to cut you off, but oh, don't worry about my Wikipedia page. That's ridiculous. Then as she's walking out, do fix my Wikipedia page.
yeah, she's just like a little girl who hasn't gotten her candy. And again, I blame the writing. I think she had some promise, and she's an important role, but it just came across as an adult child throwing some tantrums.
Yeah, well, that's how it goes with Sorkin writing his women, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Do you have a most underrated character? Since I already did mine.
Most underrated. I don't have that. Well, let me think. Well, I'm gonna skip ahead to the. Can I go with most overrated?
Do it.
Jim. Like the dude needed half as much screen time. The quadrilateral love triangle of joy was just okay. I didn't say it right, but you know what I mean. Like it's just
Yeah.
ridiculous. It just everything about him, his smugness on the road, always asking the wrong questions to make a point, and
Taking pride in it.
yeah, but only he is. He's like Will in Embryo, but it makes it worse somehow. Like, I don't know.
Because he doesn't have the resume. Yeah, fair enough.
Right.
Fair enough. I'm actually gonna go with for overrated, Sloane. She's good on paper, right?
She's hot
attractive.
though. Like I don't know.
Yeah, she's attractive. She's smart. A woman with a PhD in economics and rising in her news career. But she's also the target of a ton of marginalization and minimizing for those same characteristics. It just showed that not only does Will not take Sloane seriously. Aaron Sorkin doesn't take Sloane seriously when she just getting cut off and cut off over and over again. It's like, oh, ha ha ha. Look, no one cares about what Sloane says, and they keep getting breaking to other stuff. I just felt like that was, like a microcosm of the whole character, the whole show for her. She just comes across as childish and inconsequential. I think Olivia Munn is great, but Sloane is just made into a caricature by the show.
Yeah, I hear you. Underrated for me, I'm gonna say Maggie's roommate. What was her name? That's how underrated she is.
Lisa, I think.
Lisa, uh, not that she was written in any sort of brilliant way. She had her own womany sort of flaws, Sorkin-esque style. But at least she was like a real person seeing things from the sidelines. She was stubborn in her own way, but I feel like it was nice to see something grounded in the real world that wasn't just newsroom people. So I like that.
Fair enough. Well,
It's a stretch, though.
those are our awards. Are you looking forward to a third season? Just in the last segment, we mentioned that word is it's probably going to happen a third season, but there hasn't been an official announcement yet. And one of the things to work out is whether Aaron Sorkin feels like taking the time for a whole nother season. But if they do it, will you watch?
I'm in like guilty pleasure territory here. It's like I like one-upping Sorkin, man, and being like, you think you're smart and witty? I'm going to be smart and witty on top of your smart and witty and make fun of your smart and witty. And that's, I know, kind of maybe hypocritical or some weird way of dealing with it, but it's endearing. I kind of want to see it more if it's going to be out. I'm vested a little bit.
Yeah, I'll probably watch it. I don't know if we'll recap it next year.
Yeah, I'm
It
not sure.
depends on what else is on at the time. But in a way, the newsroom has been fun to recap because almost every episode has something that really bugs me. And you know my view, I'd much rather watch a show with a lot of bad and a lot of good than one with only average or even above average material. So we'll see. But
Awesome.
any last words on this season of the newsroom, Bob?
It was a lot of fun. I loved the energy when we recap these ones, so I'm going to miss that, and that alone was worth it. It was fun.
Yeah, you're right. It gets me going when I recap. That's for sure. It's competently put together. It's obviously some real talent in the writing and the acting, and I appreciate that. But there's still the healthy dose of 2020 hindsight, problems portraying women, and an unbearable sanctimony. And to me, those are real problems with my enjoyment of the show. And it seems possible to fix that. But if it didn't
Think.
happen after the first season, I doubt it will happen.
Yeah.
All right.